they counsel you if you're behind on payments or something, 12 months. So I mean, if somebody's telling you that, well, I don't think I can buy because I've got this, make sure you have that information. Something else I ran across today is, this is real estate news. You probably should have sent this out to your sphere of influence of past clients, because I received it from Carol because I'm one of her past clients' sphere of influence, and this comes from Century 21. So it's real estate news, October 17, and it's showing the amount of appreciation there was in the average house in certain communities, right? So what's kind of interesting, and it shows how long of a period of time. So in Oakland, California, 7 years and 3 months, the property values went up an average of $235,000. Oakland. Portland, Oregon, 9 years and 1 month, the property values went up 145,000. San Jose went up 271,000 in 9 years. Denver, 119,000. But let's get down here to LA. So Los Angeles, in 9 years and 8 months, the average property increased in value $200,000. And the crazy thing is, an awful lot of that was this year. Awful lot of that appreciation was this year. So, very interesting information. If you're not using your Century 21 CRM system to send this kind of stuff out, I mean, Carol has no idea this went out, right? But it did. So, Debbie, you could be a good hall monitor, couldn't you? Let Debbie hand these out. If we don't have enough, I scream to Mandy, and she starts printing some. And before we get very far involved in this, I want you to know that I'm a 100% believer that it is perfectly acceptable to make $15,000 to $30,000 a year in the real estate business. Perfectly acceptable. Because that may be a person's have to, right? What I'm going to teach today and for the next couple of weeks are systems that make whatever you do in the real estate business more plentiful. It makes them more efficient. And they're basically systems. So let's start out by asking ourselves a question. And I think the question that I always liked is, how can I control the quality of my life? And I learned this from Anthony Robbins years ago, and he said, the quality of a person's life is equal to the quality of the questions they ask themselves. And in that blank spot there, you need to write daily. It's the questions we ask ourselves daily. So many people, we ask ourselves questions all the time. Anybody ever hear the difference between a how and a why question? Why questions are pretty detrimental. How questions are very good for you. Why does this always happen to me? Yeah. Why can't I get a break? Rather than the how questions, we're asking ourselves how we do something. So when we asking ourselves questions, and if you're trying to make a quantum leap in the real estate business, then I would suggest you write some of your questions down and ask yourself those questions every morning. Now, I've sold probably close to 3,000 real estate properties, which means I listed probably 2,500 homes in my real estate career. So when I tell you this stuff, I'm telling you I already did this. You can ask Carol. I would get up in the morning and I'd start saying affirmations in front of the mirror. She didn't like it. I get up early. Somebody's sitting there saying affirmations at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're not really ready to get up for another hour or so. It gets to be a real problem. So, but it worked, right? We were talking today about Mike Ferry, and I was saying, I've been a Mike Ferry follower from day one. I mean, if that man said, do something standing on 1 foot, I would just lift 1 foot. I wasn't going to question the man. And we were talking about what things that he taught us, and one of the primary things that Mike taught us that was center of everything was how to control this gray matter up here. Because if the gray matter's running amok, you're running amok. You see agents who, top producing agents, it seems like they're just kind of rolling through life. Seems like they're happy all the time. Maybe they have a little drama here and there. All what agents don't, but they seem to be happy and rolling through life. Well, are they top producing because they're happy people, or are they happy because they're top producing? I mean, literally, that's a very difficult question to ask. I would say in most cases they're top producing because they're happy, organized people. So, the two basic kind of questions, we got them. So examples. Why am I not making the kind of money I deserve? I always get a kick out of advertising nowadays. I don't know whether you've noticed that they've added that deserve word in a lot of that. You deserve it. If I deserved it, I would have it. Right? Because deserving something is earning something, correct? I saw a commercial the other day, it just makes me sick. I don't like seeing people prey on any group of people. But there's this group, in my opinion, I could be wrong, in my opinion, this organization who, I forget what they're called, but they sell VA loans. And they say, because you are a veteran, you have the right to borrow 100% of your home equity. What? So, I have the right to devalue my property to zero? Is that what they're saying? And you know why? Because you're a veteran and you deserve it. I look at that and go, come on, how crummy. But anyways, so that's the question. Why am I not making the kind of money I deserve? How can I, and then the next one is, how can I make the kind of money I deserve? Which one's detrimental, which one's powerful? One of the things, and I gave you copies of these, obviously. So, and this is something that I found very, very powerful. Now, some agents, probably some of you in this room are sitting there going, yeah, I've heard all this mumbo jumbo. There's no such thing as magic words. There's no such thing as your attitude controls your altitude. I mean, some people get lucky breaks and some people don't get lucky breaks, right? Well, I never got too many, but we worked real hard. So one thing I learned is when I'm asking myself these questions, how can I deliver? At one point early in my career, I realized I was knocking on doors, I was getting limited results. I was getting the results that I deserved, but they were limited. I mean, there's only so much time in a day, right? And you're knocking on doors and people like to talk, right? So you go knocking on a door, somebody's talking to you, if they're not planning on moving, and they want to talk to you about their niece in Michigan who's a realtor. So there was a lot of time spent. So I had to ask myself a question, how can I get some numbers? So, because the goal was always 100 transactions a year. So we said, let's try hitting and running. I went hitting and running with you one time, right? And we run, don't we? We just step right. There's no walking out to the sidewalk. I mean, we're over retaining walls, bushes, and we're moving fast because it's a numbers game. And we knew, once we figured it out, is that it was going to take about 900 flyers delivered per day. And I can remember saying to Carol, I've got the number figured out, it's going to be 900 per day. And I can remember her just that fast saying, well, that's not possible. So, but it was not her business. That's not her part of the business, was not to generate business. That was a perfectly acceptable answer. But now, if I had took that attitude, it could have been different. So my question was, obviously the first question was, how can I deliver 900 flyers a day? And then the second question, after that one scared me, I said, and enjoy it. Yeah. Right? And man, what a different slant does that put on a question. So the next morning, we didn't have big copy machines in those days. I went down to the printer and I said, okay, I need 900 of these by tomorrow morning. And said, okay, and then I need 900 every day, 5 days a week from this point forward. And then that next morning, we had an assistant. Her name was Monty. And I went to our assistant and said, here's 450 flyers. Come with me. Because that's how I could do it. I could do 450. And having somebody else to be out in the neighborhood with, that's enjoyable. So that was the answer to the question. That was the right answer, by the way. It worked out pretty well. Actually, we knew how many per hour per neighborhood, so we had it all mapped out. Because later on in that farming business, I decided to start hiring people to go out. And so I knew if they came back too early or came back too late, there was something wasn't quite right. So, but there's several things a person can do. I'm always a believer that getting in the neighborhoods and talking to people works 100% of the time. I believe it works 100% of the time. Because there are people thinking about moving. And it's pretty difficult. I mean, I can't pay Zillow enough money for them to find them for me. Right? So the best way I can find them, and I don't want to compete with people that are paying tons of money to come up top on Google, because in my experience so far, that's been a loser. I haven't been able to pay enough money. I mean, honestly, if I could pay $1 million a month and make $1,100,000 back, I'd start paying $1 million a month. Who wouldn't, right? I have to find the $1 million, but so, you know, in this environment, and in all environments, I believe that getting out and talking to people is the way to make it happen. Now, this is kind of a trick statement, isn't it? Some of you know that. But I'll ask. Jesse, what's that say?
Because if you don't talk to them, you're not going to get results.
But read it to me. What's it say?
Oh, to sell more homes, we must talk to more people.
Yeah, very good. What's it say?
I'm sorry?
Your turn. What's it say? Read that.
To sell more homes, we must talk to more people.
Okay. That isn't what it says. You know what it says?
It's a number of people.
But what's it say? Read it to me.
It means
Read it in harmony here.
it means to take action.
I know what it means. But what it says is to sell more homes, we must talk to more people. Period. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the story right there. We have to do it. So now I might ask myself, how about this? How can I talk to more people and enjoy it? Right? Now, if I ask myself that question, you know what? Some answers are going to come to me. They will. So the systems outlined here, let me tell you why we're doing it. They're there to create a duplicatable business. Duplicatable is so important in the real estate business. If I get a call from a past client and the past client says, I got 36 homes to sell. And I go out and I list and sell those 36 homes. What are the chances that is very duplicatable? I mean, unless I hang out with unless I meet people that have tremendous amounts of properties, right? It's not very duplicatable. If I go out and I find somebody who becomes a lead, and I follow up very well with that lead, and when it comes time for that person to list their home, they choose me, that's duplicatable, right? I can redo it. You know, years ago, we used to feel that the open house was a total waste of time. We used to feel it was a total waste of time because we were of the mindset that said we cannot affect or control the amount of people that come into it. Right? So you have an open house, 20 people can show up. You have another open house, one person shows up. And then we later on found out that we could affect the amount of people who showed up at an open house. So at that point, when we realized we could affect it, it became a viable source of business. Because we went out in the neighborhood ahead of time. We told everybody we were going to do this. We had neighborhood reports. So we did things to attract people. I remember the first time we did that, I'm talking to Debbie. I said, has anybody showed up with a flyer yet? She says, yes. I said, okay. We got that person to the door. So the key is, can we build a business using proper systems that is duplicatable? So there's two kinds of business. Each are okay. There's the one I call grow, baby, grow versus keep it small, keep it all. Okay? So if I'm in the real estate business and my goal is, and again, it's a perfectly acceptable goal, my goal is to make $15,000 a year. If I'm married to, or my significant other, or whatever the case may be, is gainfully employed and covers all of our bills, then how welcome is $15,000 a year? Are you kidding me? Sounds really great to me. Oh, would that be a nice vacation fund? It would be. So to to keep it small like that is perfectly acceptable to do. But for people who want to go beyond that, then at that point, the systems are going to be a little bit different. So, our level of delegation changes as our volume of business changes. Everybody knows what delegation is, right? Remember we talked a week or so ago about to catch a fish, and you bring it back here and you clean it and you cook it. You know, if we need to delegate things, then we delegate things. In today's environment with transaction coordinators and people teaming up and things like that, it's much easier to do. When I first got in the business, it was very difficult. There was no such thing as a transaction coordinator. You did everything yourself. Or better yet, Carol did everything. All I had to do was take listings. I mean, if that's all you have your entire real estate career, do you think you could take some listings? That's all you got to do. You know, I was told one time, it's kind of a hard story to hear, but yeah, of course, it's a typical hard story to hear from Mike Ferry. He said, Dan, he says, do you have some children, or he's getting to know me a little bit, and I told him about my kids, and he said, well, let me ask you a question. He says, if I put a gun to one of them's head, and you knew me, and you know I'm half crazy, and I said, if you don't take a listing today, I'm going to shoot them, would you take a listing? I said, of course. He said, then don't make me shoot them. You know? And I said, but Mike, that's because if I had to, I would get my own gun, and I would knock on somebody's door and say, here's a listing contract, sign it. So that's how our level of dedication, how committed we are to the act. I mean, every one of us knows we could go out and get a listing. I've asked several people in my life, they're going, oh my God, it's horrible, it's horrible. It's not like it used to be, Dan. It's not like it used to be in your day. I go, well, you want to make some money? You want to take a chance about making some money? Great. I'll bet you $10,000 I can go out and get a listing for not a past client or sphere of influence this week. There's your chance to make 10 grand. Now, those of you that know me very well know that I would work every daylight hour until I got that listing, right? And not so much for the 10 grand, but for the fact that I'm not going to let somebody beat me out of it. So we got to have that. So before we start, and here's that first layer of bricks. Everybody know what the terminology first layer of bricks mean? If you're building a wall and that first layer of bricks is going a little bit like this, the whole wall's going to go like that, right? First layer of bricks has got to be right. It's got to be your foundation, your footing. So before we start, we have to establish a quantifiable, realistic, and that should be in red, because it's so important, realistic goal based on your financial needs and your skill level. We got to sit down and create a realistic goal. It's been proven in every industry, sport, everything you can imagine in life, it's been proven that without a goal, you're handicapping yourself. Right? And without a goal. So many times, if you have a goal and you're committed to it and you based it on some realistic ability, it makes the job so much easier. You can do it without a goal. But my God, man, why try it? You got to work so hard. Well, if I set a goal, what if I fail? Then reset another one. Right? I mean, I haven't accomplished every goal I ever set. Those of you know I can compare just about everything in life to fishing and cycling. Just about everything. Well, it was kind of an interesting thing. Yesterday we do a hill climb in the mornings. Right at sunup, we take off out of the parking lot here and we climb a hill. And I text Carlos, my riding buddy, I text him that we made 11.1 miles an hour. That was the fastest time we've ever done on that hill. He texts me back, he says, tomorrow, let's do 12.5 miles an hour. So I text back, I didn't commit. I just text back, time will tell. If anybody doesn't believe me, I'll show you my phone. But, so this morning, I got a goal, right? I got a goal. So we get out there, we ride, we get back, open up the phone, look at the speed, 12.4 miles an hour. So that was our best speed, even though the day before was our best speed, I didn't think it could be beat. But it was just because of the goal, and I can't say that it was harder, it was easy, but it had a goal. So we have to have a realistic goal. So you make a realistic goal. If your history shows that you typically sell, 5 houses a year, probably a realistic goal is not that you're going to sell 500 homes between now and the end of the year. Probably not realistic. I guess it could be done, but probably not realistic. So we need to have something realistic. I don't ever want to stifle a person's goal. 'Cause I have people come and give me goals that I don't feel are realistic for them, but I'm not going to tell them that. So you need to make sure it's realistic, and it's realistic based on your financial needs. That is probably the number one most important thing. Anthony Robbins tells us, or used to tell us years ago, that we will do much more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure, right? And you know what? Having to sell something, pain, right? Getting calls from a creditor, pain. We want to avoid that at all costs. So the idea of basing that goal on some realistic items and your finances and your skill level is very important. I was talking to somebody here the other day, and we were talking about telephone soliciting, expired listings in particular. And I had a great experience in the real estate business because I used to have a group of realtors that would call and prospect, and we all did it in one room. And I would sit there and I would watch and listen. And I would see that one person was really fluid with their dialogues and really had tonality under control. And at the end of the session, I'd ask everybody, okay, what's your score? I want to know how many attempts, how many contacts, how many leads, and how many appointments. And this person's score was always through the roof compared to everyone else. Skill. Some people say, well, I don't want to learn to talk like anything special. Because I like the way I talk. Well, great. Then talk the way you talk. But if you apply some skills, Mike Ferry told me one time, all kidding aside, another difficult story come out of Mike. He says, Dan, if you knocked on a door and every time somebody opened, you threw up on their shoe and looked up at them wiping your mouth and says, you don't want to sell this house, do you? He said, even if you did that often enough, somebody would correct you and go, no, we really do. And what he was saying to me was, you haven't got any skills, Dan. You're throwing up on people's shoe. I'm selling 50 homes a year. And he's going, you don't have any skills. So we have to create that goal based on the skills. So here's how we do it. Very important. We have to create a plan. And to some of you that have done this over and over again, if it gets boring, then you're doing something wrong. This should never get boring. Creating a 5 or a 10-year plan should never be boring. It should always be one of the most exciting things you ever do in your life. I love it. So here's some basic things. How old will I be? And you're not going to turn this in, so you can be honest. And where will I live? Isn't that incredible? I can actually, in creating my 5-year plan, I can actually control where I'm going to live in 5 years. And I mean control it. Who will I live with? I can actually control that. Describe your home. And also, last time I did this on my 10-year plan, I said, describe your home/homes. In case you wanted to have 2 or 3 of them. One at the beach, one at the mountains, one in the desert. That way you're always comfortable. So what? And the form's pretty easy to understand. What kind of vehicle will you own? Annual income required. How many income streams do you think you're going to need at that point? Pretty critical question to ask yourself. And if you're 66 or maybe 65, if you're in that age group, one of your income streams can be Social Security. My God, I'd hate to have it be the only one. Can you imagine that? That would hurt. But it'd be a nice one to say, hey, my Social Security is making my vacation home payment. So that's one of your income streams. So you need to determine how many income streams you need. So we need to have that goal. We need to base that on reality. We need to go ahead and get a 5-year plan where it's laser focused on it. Can it be changed? Okay. Sometimes I change my plan, my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan. Sometimes I change it 2-3 times a year because I want to go a different direction. You know, an honest to God, there's a true story about this, and Peter remembers this. Back in probably 2001 or so, we all did the Anthony Robbins 30-day program. And in that 30-day program, one of the things was to create a 5-year plan. So, you know, we had the little books that came from Anthony Robbins, and we all did our 5-year plan. And I can remember running into mine in the drawer. I pulled it out. I'm going through this, and I see the 5-year plan. I look at the date, and we're like 3 days short of 5 years. And I'm looking here, and I go, okay, accomplished, 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 accomplished. There was like one issue that wasn't accomplished, and believe me, I accomplished it right away at that point. So then I'm all excited about this because I love this kind of stuff. I love being able to control my life. So I go into Peter's office. I go, wow, Peter, do you still have that thing? You ought to pull it out and see what's going on. And I said, you know, it's just really great. I was able to actually accomplish these things. And so he's going through his. He's going, okay. And I'm going, you know what? There's one thing that is very much missing in your 5-year plan. He goes, what's that? And I go, your wife. Well, guess what? See what's gone. So, you know, you got to be careful when you fill that dude out because you leaving something out might be as dangerous as adding something in. So if we're going to do a basic business plan now, what we need to do is we need to know what our total cost of living is going to be. We need to know if we have an outside income. So if I've got to make $100,000 a year, my wife makes $80,000 a year, I got to make $20,000 a year. Okay, pretty simple math. So we can figure that out. What is the difference between $20,000? See, amount is average commission. What is our average commission here today, Peter?
Today, $7,500.
$7,500. When I was in the business, most of the time I was in the business, it was $3,000. So, next time you go, I'm only getting 2.5%. You know, look at the number.
Yeah.
So the average commission, the gross number of homes I need to sell. That's pretty simple to figure, right? If I make $7,500 and my goal is I need $7,500 for the year, I only have to sell one home, right? So then we have the net number of homes, boom, boom, boom. You can run through this and you can figure out what you need to do in your business. Why do we write it down? Because there's a magic about writing something down. I don't know. You write it down, it means more. So you need to do that plan. You know, as we continue on the business plan, you got to say, if you did accomplish that, let's say you did. I can't imagine for 1 minute creating a plan and not accomplishing it. I can't imagine it. I will be hesitant to create a plan if I don't think I can accomplish it. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh yeah, here's what you know what I'm doing? Here's what I plan on doing. And I ain't got a snowball's chance in Lake Havasu in August of being able to accomplish it, right? So when we do this, we say, what difference will it make? So how will your life change if you accomplish this goal? If you say none, then you're probably not really attached to it, right? Well, you know what? I could get the Hyundai painted. I could reupholster the footstool. You know, that thing's been looking a little tattered lately. I could take that down to Riviera Furniture and get it reupholstered. So if it's not something pretty tying you to it, you probably won't do it. So how passionate you are about the goal is very important. So why are they important to me? I'm willing to kill or die for it. That is what I always felt was the top level of commitment to me. And obviously I'm not a murderer. I'm not suicidal. So basically, if I say I'll kill or die for it, that just means I will accomplish it, right? So you have to determine what that level is going to be. If you write these things down and you look at them, and you don't get worked up, then you need to look at it again. Another actual story. I had a group of agents, and I think the number of agents was probably 4. And I always wanted to create a kind of a laboratory with realtors. I always wanted to get realtors together, and I always wanted to put them under the microscope, and I wanted to make them work. So we had a little space in Ontario, went down and we opened the Success Academy. I had 4 realtors, I believe it was 4. Had 4 realtors came to work down there. We had our own sales board. We operated basically as a separate company. And we started, we had a start time, and we had an end time. You know, like a real job. And then we had things we needed to do within that environment. We had things we did from this time to here, things we did from this time to here, things we did from this time to here. I got to listen to everybody talk, and I could see the ones that were getting results, the ones that weren't getting results. I could see why. And I could say, hold it, you need to fix this. A lot of tears shed there. I don't know how many boxes of Kleenex we went through there. But because, you know, I'm tough love. If you ask me what to do, I'm going to tell you what to do. If you say, hey, how great do you think I am? I go, well, your mother listed with you, and then it expired. I don't think you're that great of a realtor. You know? So, I mean, I'm not going to go, hey, good job, unless it was a good job. So these agents were doing a really good job. But I realized real quick that it was all just kind of fun. I hadn't really been able to reach anybody. So I had each one of them create their mission statement. How many of you, don't show me your hands, but just ask yourself the question, how many of you have not really written down your mission statement? What are you all about in the real estate business? Excuse me. Why am I doing this? Why is it important to me? I mean, to me, that's a very basic fundamental. I got to have that, right? So each one of these agents did a mission statement. They brought them in. I made them share them with me. I looked at a few of them. I handed them back. These aren't any good. Because they didn't bring a tear to my eye and they didn't bring a tear to your eye. You know, a mission statement has to be something that strong. So they rewrote them. I think we went through 3 boxes of Kleenex that next day. But everybody got something down on paper that they were committed to and that was very, very important to them. That's what's important in the real estate business. You realize something's real important, it becomes easy to accomplish. So we've got to set the goal. We've got to do a mission statement, do your 5-year plan. And literally, you've got the forms right here. After the class, get out a pencil and do it. So weekly allotment of time. You notice I reworded that because when I say schedule, a lot of people freak out. Schedule. Why do you think I became an independent contractor, Dan? Nobody tells me what to do. I get to work when I want to. Okay? I don't think that's a very good financial background or base for your business. So very simple. Just be honest. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh my God, is he recommending I work Sunday? I don't care what days you work. But have some days that you work on a regular basis. You know, I've said many, many times, and I keep going back to this, if a realtor had the work ethic that is required to maintain employment at Del Taco, you know, show up every day at a certain time. Can you imagine talking on a speaker? Say, you want to supersize that? While you're ringing somebody else up? I mean, I look at that job and I think, my God, I couldn't do it. But if a person had the work ethic, then they would do very well in the real estate business. So when you do this, when you put your time allotment down, be honest. If it doesn't work, then change it. You know, I know realtors that made a lot of money that didn't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Really, I know a lot of them. I know realtors that made a lot of money that didn't show up till 10 o'clock. But they were somewhat repetitive in what they did. They knew what they were doing. They had a system, and they were looking to income generate. So I kind of bumped that in because I got to realizing that if I didn't give this to you, the basics, that teaching you what to say to expired listings and what to say to for sale by owners would not have the impact. So when we go into this next system, I'm going to just touch around it a little bit here. And it's a system one is income generating. You have to have a system of income generating. If somebody asks you this question, and you might want to walk into a mirror and ask yourself this question: how do I generate business? Mike Ferry told me one time, because we always all had to write our business plans down, our goals and our mission statements and all that. And he would always say, if I see the word wait or hope, it's void. Right? Well, I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to hope, and we'll see what happens. Well, I can tell you what happens. I already know. I never chose to do it myself because I always knew what the outcome was. So you have to have income generating systems. It's critical to have multiple systems. You realize it's possible for a realtor? I'm quite certain I could work 3 days a week and generate a great above average income in the real estate business. I'm certain. What days would they be? You know, well, they'd be the days when most people are home. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh, there's Dan saying, suggests I work Sunday again. I don't care. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you realize that there's so many 4-day work week jobs nowadays, in California especially, that Friday's like a day off. You know, they call it on the freeways now, they call it Friday light, right? Because nobody's going to work. So, I mean, imagine if I knocked on doors 8 hours a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that's all I did. And I had my skill level good. I could say, hi, I'm Dan, I'm your neighbor's realtor. And I just worked my way through that. I'd sell a lot of houses. There's no doubt. Well, that's so much work, 3 days a week, 8 hours a day. Del Taco requires more than that, I think. So we've got to have the systems. So on our business generator systems, I'm going to suggest some basics. You hear me harping very hard on expired listings. It's because then they asked Jesse James, not this Jesse James, but when they asked the real Jesse James, well, he is the real Jesse James. When they asked Jesse James, the outlaw, you're not, right? Okay. When they asked the outlaw, Jesse James, why do you rob banks? He looked at them with a peculiar look in his face and said, because that's where they keep the money. Right? Well, in expired listings, there's money there. So some of you are more experienced than others. So I'm going to ask a question. When we're in a market like we're in now, dropping inventory, right? Prices are increasing. Do sellers tend to overprice their listings?
Always.
They do. What fuels an incredible expired market? Overpriced, did you say the last word? Listings, right? So it makes sense. We need to, right now while this is happening, and it'll go on for a while, we need to get good at it. And so next week I'm going to teach you some of the real fine points of expires, but I'll give you the rough of it. You've got to contact them. You want to be the first one if you can be. You want to be the first. If your plan is to call expires at 8 a.m., yeah, probably you're not going to get the best results. I always call them early. Somebody said one time, they said, well, you know that FCC requires that you don't make phone calls. So I go, I don't really care. I'm not a radio broadcaster or anything. All I'm doing is calling people who put their number in the MLS to be called. I'm just calling them saying, hey, you want to sell? So, well, I guess the most important thing I could teach you about expires, and we'll go into in depth next week, is you have to outwork your competition. You have to never worry about over-contacting that expirer. You have to be contacting them every couple of days. You need to be knocking on their door if they're within your radius. You need to be doing all these things. You need to outwork the other person. And you know, once upon a time when I was told to do this, and I was saying, Mike, I don't want to irritate them, and he made me get a yellow pad. He said, put a yellow pad next to your phone, and every time you lose a listing, and they say, because you over-contacted me, write their name down. And then, of course, we spoke next week. He says, anybody on that list yet? And I go, no. He goes, throw it away. You're never going to have anyone on the list. So we need to do that. The philosophy of an expired listing is this. One of two things happen. They're either not motivated to sell or they're a victim. They're a victim of a realtor who either lied to them about price just to get a listing, or they're a victim of an inexperienced realtor that didn't have the ability to figure out what their home was worth, or they're a victim of a realtor who didn't have the sales skills to convince them that this was the right thing to do. Does anybody, we realize that in this market we are all going to take overpriced listings, but it's not okay to tell your seller that you think it's going to sell for that. You know, I can relate it to many, many things, but if you got a 1999 Chevy Malibu, it's worth $3,000. And if somebody else comes along and says, I can sell that Chevy Malibu for $19,000, what do you think the chances are going to do it? Ain't going to happen, right? But they might get the sales contract for a while, and then when the listing expires, it becomes much easier for you to come in and explain to them. When you take the overpriced listing up front, it's going to be extremely important that you tell them it is. You say, folks, I work for you. I'll do whatever you ask me to do, and I'll put the full push of my marketing behind this listing. But I just want you to know that it's probably not going to sell for this. And then once you've had that honest conversation with them, as a rule, they'll relist with you, and you'll be able to get price reductions. So the last thing on this is I wrote something here, and I think it may look kind of strange to a lot of people, but this is the honest-to-God work cycle in real estate. This is what it is. It's work with no results, work with no results, work with no results, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then you get results. So many people I see proved within their own mind, without a shadow of a doubt, that something doesn't work. They just haven't tried it long enough. You know, how many of you wish that we lived in an environment where you could knock on 3 doors, and every 3.5 doors will say, you get a signed listing contract? How many of you'd like that? Huh? Would you? Think it'd be great? Well, then the listings would be worth about $100. You know, if it wasn't difficult, a listing would be worth $100. Because if I could knock on 3 doors, I'm out there, I'm saying, hey, I'll do it for $50. Swipe your credit card. Because 3 doors now, I'm making another $50, right? And all I want to make is $1 million a year. I do a quick little math. I go, hey, will you knock on doors with me? And we're out there all of a sudden. But everybody would be there. So I always thought, I hope it gets more difficult. I hope it gets hotter. I used to love it. 105 degrees, you know, I always wore a vested suit in those days and a necktie. And 105 degrees out there, the first couple hours, I think the suit kind of insulated me from the heat. And then after a while, you know, one day, I told the story to some of you, but one day I'm walking along, and it smelled like a dog was following me or something. It was my own perspiration coming through that wool suit. But I thought, you know what? Nobody else is going to do this. Nobody else is going to do this. I'll own that neighborhood soon. So the work, no results is important because I watch the cycle. I see it in realtors all the time. We work, we stop. And then, because we've proven to ourselves it doesn't work. And then what happens is all of a sudden some results come from something you did a month or so ago. And you go, oh, let me go back. Start doing that again. Well, we lost all the momentum. So with expired listings and some of the things that we're going to talk about for income generating, it's just important that you, in your schedule, you have it laid out in a way that you can do it and enjoy it. So it's not laborsome. Oh, I got to go in and call expires. Somebody's going to yell at me. I know they're going to yell at me. You know, think I've ever been yelled at by an expired listing? Yeah, I have. I was not. Mike said, "What's the worst thing an expired listing can do to you?" And I said, "Yell at you." And he goes, "No, they could get in their car, drive down the office, and shoot you." But he says, "What's the probability?" Right? Pray though. Once upon a time, I did have somebody come down there. or threatened to come down there with a ball bat and was going to get me. But you never find me at the office. I was always I was right in his neighborhood. He should have come out, hit me with a ball bat there. But so, anyways, real important as we go through this. If it doesn't seem to be working, look at it, ask me, or ask yourself, do you think that I would teach you something that doesn't work? I mean, why would I do that? What would I have to gain by that? We already established that we have to talk to people, and a highly motivated person is the best one to talk to, right? If we know how many homes are going to go on the market in Rancho Cucamonga, we can find those statistics real easy, right? We can just go back and we can take the last 3 months, how many homes were listed, we can divide it by 3, and we can estimate how many homes are going to come on the market. But it's pretty hard to identify which ones it's going to be. Wouldn't it be nice if they had like a blue light in the front of their house? You just drive around and go, oh, there's one. Hey, obviously you have the blue porch light, so obviously you're going to be listing your home soon. I'd like to apply for the job. Well, the blue light is the expired listing. Not only do we know that they're thinking about selling, they've actually made the step and hired a realtor that couldn't do it, which actually makes you look better. So anyways, if we apply some of these principles, there's a subject that I love very much, and it's called time blocking. And if you do a little time blocking, you could time block within a day, time block within a week, and you just do this during this time. So you call expireds, you go out in the neighborhood, whatever the income generating activities you're going to do are, excuse me, as you do them regularly, they become a habit. Did anybody ever notice that a habit becomes extremely easy and very difficult to break? How'd you like to have the habit of listing 8 houses a month? Nice habit, huh? Yeah, kind of the rule I always thought. If you can take 8 listings a month, you're going to pretty much be all right. You're going to pretty much be able to handle just about any problem, financial problem anyways, that comes along your way. So, I'm going to leave it there today. Next week, same, right after the sales meeting. And I'll start making these more condensed and more subject matter, more what to do, what I always like to call hammers and nails. And so we'll do it after the sales meeting next Wednesday. And we'll really look very closely at the expired listing. And then we're going to look very closely at the for sale by owner. Do owners think they can sell their stuff right now? Well, they could help. They could get some help with Purple Bricks. You know, they're real realtors.
What is that they're not?
There's a lot of investigating going around. I think they're doing a great job of marketing because they're throwing this mesquite out there. But who saw the latest run of Realtor.com commercials? Exact same. In this case, it's 2 women, and she's going, yeah, we got the house because we went to Realtor.com. They lost.